Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to the November 13th Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. I'm your host, David Leary. Today we're bringing in Jim Filicetti of QBHero.com. He specializes in converting QuickBooks Desktop company files to QuickBooks Online and the migration process involved in that, so all the apps, etc. So he's here today just to talk to us about issues he's seen, surprises he's seen with apps, and really just educate our developer community on the impact when customers do move from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. I'm going to unmute Jim here and get him introduced officially. Oh, Jim, you might have to unmute yourself. It's not letting me unmute you. Sorry about that.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me fine?
I think you're good.
Great. Good morning. My name is Jim Filicetti, and I'm one of the co-owners of QBO Hero. What we essentially have found here is a conversion process from any type of software to QuickBooks Online. And what we have discovered is a system of trying to convert any type of software to QuickBooks Online accurately and effectively for the end users of QuickBooks Online, including third-party applications. So thank you very much, David, for having me today, and I'm greatly appreciative of being able to discuss this topic with you.
Great. I think a couple weeks ago we were at the, almost 2 months ago, I think, I saw you at the Chicago, or the Midwest Accounting Show. And if I remember correctly, did you say you're doing about 10 a day you're pumping through from a desktop software application into QBO?
Well, that's something that we can do about a maximum of 10 conversions a day from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. And what we typically see and what slows us down on those conversions is the more complex that they get. There's typically 3 conversions that are happening from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. The first one being that there's no payroll associated with that file, and there's no Intuit payments associated with that file, or there's nothing as far as a third-party application is concerned, for instance, Bill.com or something like a T-Sheets that would need to be converted. So it all depends on the complexity of the file and how many we can get done per day. 10 is about our maximum, and those are usually when they're with no third-party apps associated with the file, David.
Got it. So you kind of when you attack this, you kind of bucket the clients as they come in. You see you have one bucket, which is just they're using very limited features of QuickBooks Desktop, and it's pretty straightforward migration to QuickBooks Online, no surprises. And then what are your your 2 other buckets you run into?
When there's a payroll and or payments involved. So when we have a payroll on a QuickBooks Desktop, there's really no good conversion tool right now going from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. They're on 2 different platforms. There's 2 different services on desktop, which is your enhanced payroll and your assisted payroll. And then when we convert over to the QuickBooks Online application, we have to also convert the payroll systems over so that they obviously match the year-to-date payroll, and the person who is converting or the client that's converting can successfully get a payroll off and accept merchant service payments. So that's the other bucket. And then the third bucket is when they have a application of all 3 of those. Perhaps there's a desktop file coming over to QuickBooks Online that has data of payroll and a application such as Bill.com coming from desktop to QuickBooks Online. And that's also going to be something that has to be staged properly, because as we know of right now, unless you know of something that developed, we don't really have an application or a conversion tool to get Bill.com-like application from desktop to QuickBooks with a conversion tool as of yet.
That's correct. A lot of the ID mappings aren't all the same. We've now provided developers a tool so these developers can tell, oh, that transaction was transaction A5 in QuickBooks Desktop. Now in QuickBooks Online, it's Z253, but at least they have a mapping tool so they can look up the old transactions and display it in their app. But you're right, as far as a magic migration tool, no, and it's difficult, right? I mean, moving just plain old QBO or QB Desktop to QuickBooks Online is one level of a challenge. Even for ourselves, getting the QuickBooks payroll data migrated over between, because we have basically 3 different payroll products to some extent, right?
Right.
QuickBooks Desktop's one of them. QuickBooks Online's a different payroll product, and then we kind of have our full-service payroll products, which is kind of a third the standalone payroll. It's kind of its own payroll monster. And then you take into the Intuit Payments and the merchant account services, which are kind of merging now. So it is difficult just for our own products, never mind the plethora of third-party apps. I mean, if you go back to the old QuickBooks Marketplace, there's lots and lots of apps that are out there, and now there's a lot of those companies have moved into cloud, now support QBO, and like how do you have something to help them all migrate? So are you working with individual developers on this, or do you kind of just figure out your own workarounds when somebody's using an app? And you can use Build.com as an example. I think that's a pretty common one.
Sure. It's a blend. It's a staging process mostly where we took our own. I have a full-blown CPA firm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's KJ Tax, and we had about 150 conversions that we did in-house. And we are a complete Intuit shop. We don't use anything but Intuit offerings. And it was something that we consistently documented on the conversion process since last January as to what needs to happen, who we need to contact, what procedures we need to take in order to make certain that a successful conversion takes place and that the client who is using the QuickBooks Online product is actually enjoying the product when we're done with the conversion. Now, we do have engineers working on more automation with the conversion as we speak. So we just came out with our 0 to QBO Hero conversion actually last week, and that's going quite well as well. So it's more of a process of improving every week on the aspect of the conversion, the procedures, the migration, the staging, and the development of our engineers and getting this more and more automated for the accuracy of the data coming over.
Would it be possible to give a little bit more? Yeah. What's kind of the secret sauce? I mean, are you doing a lot of exports and then manipulating data in tables and re-importing it in? Like, how are you kind of accomplishing a lot of these migrations?
I would have to defer that to our engineers, and they're not available today. So they're doing the most of the back work. Me being a CPA, I sort of what they're doing right now is the more and more automation that they're doing, the more and more I'm getting involved in the file and seeing what's being automated and transferred from a developer standpoint. And what I'm doing is reviewing the accuracy of the data that's being converted, and I'm also testing the QBO platform to make certain that the client can make a bill out, take a bill, making sure that the bill.com does work on that end, making sure that they can get their payroll done on time, making sure that a payment is available from that migration to apply to an invoice. So those are the types of things. Some of the secret sauce that we have is that we have CPAs working on in the background when we're reviewing the transferred file to make certain that the client is going to have an enjoyable experience with that type of conversion and that migration from desktop to QuickBooks Online. So it's a blend.
Got it. So it sounds like on the back end, towards the end of the process, you definitely have a high-touch, high-quality review before you kind of hand that back to the client.
Right. The last thing we want to do is have a CPA firm or a client of the CPA firm come back and say, geez, that conversion didn't really go that well, and we can't really perform our day-to-day operations, and we can't get our payroll out. That's the last thing that we want. And we haven't had that come back as of yet. So before we convert, regardless of how much time it takes, we want to make certain that the data that's coming over is accuracy guaranteed and that they're able to perform their day-to-day functions with the file.
So it's as little impact as possible. Is there any of the, have you seen like, are there good times to migrate, poor times to migrate, or are you just, hey, it's middle of November, why not? Let's migrate this weekend. Or how do you help clients determine when they should migrate?
Well, it's the next couple months we're anticipating a record amount of people that want to migrate and pushing towards the new year. For all the developers and all the applications that are associated with QuickBooks Online or desktop, a great time to convert is January 1st or thereabouts, and that is because a lot of the applications don't have conversion tools, and a year-end is a perfect time to go ahead and cross over on those types of applications, such as Bill.com.
And are you concentrating on bringing everybody's full data from QuickBooks Desktop into QuickBooks Online, or are you sometimes considering people, hey, it's January 1st, let's have a clear break, this is your chance to restart, And do you consider that a migration also, or do you do I don't know if that's a partial migration, but it's kind of helping people are still migrating their business processes to QuickBooks Online, but it's not to straight up pull all the data and dump it into the next product.
Right. Well, there's definitely an advantage to get to that point as of January 1st. To answer your question about just to set up a new QuickBooks Online file from a desktop file as of January 1st, a lot of individuals and businesses do want historical data, at least financial data, to compare and contrast. Another thing, too, is that they do have budgets that they may want to set up in QuickBooks Online Plus, and they may want to have that done earlier than the first of the year. And it's extremely hard for a business owner to try to just go into a new. You always are going to have that issue, by the way, David, of if you did set up a new QuickBooks Online file as of January 1st, you're still going to be tagging along luggage, i.e., meaning that you're going to still have your QuickBooks Desktop either on your desktop, laptop, or hosted, where you would have to go back and refer to historical data. So why not do the conversion, get at least 2 years of data in there so you have a feedback as to how you're doing. In addition to that, it still doesn't solve the problem of open accounts receivable and open accounts payable that you're still collecting payments on, or you're trying to pay the bills from the end of the year. So a conversion is probably the best way to go in that regard instead of setting up a brand new company. You're still going to have conversion issues on some items.
Got it. Cool. So are there some apps you've felt like, oh, when that app has it's a low headache when somebody migrates, and that app's a little bit bigger of a headache? It's not a knock on the developers. It's just I think some apps naturally aren't going to have a hiccup, right? It's just based on the nature of the app versus another. I imagine Bill.com, accounts payable type stuff, you have overlaps when you migrate, those types of things. But I can imagine maybe something like a timesheet product could be a clean break. So are there certain apps you've noticed that from a harder, medium, and a low headache one, and kind of just paint a picture of maybe some of the reasons you've seen problems with those apps?
Well, I know Smart Vault, any type of document retention system that's tied directly, and I might be getting out of my range. I'm a CPA, not a developer. I guess getting out of the range of the API where I can't connect something historically to Smart Vault, QuickBooks Online that's sitting in desktop e-file cabinet. There's a lot of things that are attached right within the desktop program that a lot of end users are accustomed to, where there was some type of system tray where I could get into these third-party applications from the desktop version and not necessarily from the online version. Where on the online version, we're pretty much going out to the developer's website, let's say Smart Vault, and then we're integrating and we're pushing things into the online environment, where some of those may have been available on the desktop version. So we're finding that I'm not going to say roadblocks, but the opportunities for improvement with the developers is to have a conversion tool that will make it easier to go ahead and take the data or the functionality that was in the desktop and have it converted into online. And that's our struggle right now. It takes a lot of time.
So it sounds like an app like Smart Vault, where it's constantly having many connections to QuickBooks Desktop data, right? You have a stored image on Smart Vault that's linked to a specific transaction in QuickBooks, and you always need that link there.
Right.
So that when you move, you still want those links to be maintained when you move into the new world with QuickBooks Online. So yeah, I could definitely say that's challenging versus a developer where they're just one-time shooting data off to QuickBooks Desktop, and there's no real linkage. It's a one-time feed, one-time feed, one-time feed. And it doesn't matter the following week. I see that. Got it. What's kind of just kind of in some insight, because I'm still waiting to see if anybody has some decent questions come through. But is there any what's the biggest client you've kind of migrated over? Did you bring over 6 years of data? How's that going?
You sort of broke up there, but I think I got the gist of the question. The largest client that we converted.
Yeah.
Some of the issues that we had with them.
Yeah, in terms of the size, how many years of data you brought over, how many apps they're using, what made it so big and hairy and complicated?
Well, file size was one of them. We had to somehow shrink it to get in all the data that this particular client wanted. He wanted 10 years of data going back. He wanted the full integration with the payroll product. He wanted full integration with an accounts payable offering, and he wanted these third-party apps that he's a real estate apartment guy that was trying to manage all these apartment complexes in Atlanta. So that was a very big challenge because of uh, I would say, the routine that they were in with their desktop enterprise file, and trying to create that conversion and have everything go to where he could, again, operate from day to day on the QuickBooks Online Plus. That was over the 4th of July weekend. We pretty much missed the barbecues and some of the beer drinking and some of the celebrations going on, but we were successful in getting that done, uh, but not at 100%. We still are working on some issues with what he wanted to see as far as invoice data is concerned in the file. He wanted more of the items and more of the customers and more of the invoices coming over at 100%. We just didn't have enough bandwidth to get that done. But we did get the detail that he wanted to do the day-to-day, but we're still finishing up on a couple of tweaks on that file. However, the client did pay the CPA firm for the conversion, and they are doing a pretty relatively good job on the QuickBooks Online Plus file for their applications. And one thing that I want to say is that they did go through a lot of frustration the first week or two. And there is a lot of differences. If you're used to the desktop and you're going to QuickBooks Online, definitely a cultural shift. However, after the first week or two of frustrations, and with the developers' help out there, the third-party developers, he was able to hook in these applications to his QuickBooks Online, and he's actually finding it a lot more beneficial now that he went through that frustration and that angst with this conversion, and he's seeing how nice it is to have an application that works seamlessly with QuickBooks Online and how much time it's saving him by utilizing the app on online versus the app on the desktop.
Well, that's great that you mentioned that, because that's something I've always been soapboxing on, where it's like QuickBooks Desktop, maybe at best, by the time you tweaked it and customized it, was an 85% for your solution for your business. And if you move to QuickBooks Online plus an industry niche app, you're getting a 100% solution for your business. So it's always been I'm glad you brought that up on your own, and that's a true observation you've had with the client. I'm just going to pause here for a second, Jim, if you don't mind. Anybody who's viewing, having the YouTube experience, I have opened up the Q&A panel. If you want to ask a question, please definitely ask a question. Those of you who are actually in the room with us, feel free right now. If you want to unmute, you can pop in and ask Jim some questions. Jack, Dave, or Abraham, if you guys have any questions for Jim, that'd be great. And if nobody has this question right now, Dave does?
I was going to say, my biggest question about converting from desktop to online has always been the foreign keys that my own product holds on to, and they're going to be different, I believe, when desktop takes its data into QBO. And so how do I map those new foreign keys into my product? I think there was a discussion about this.
Yeah, and for those of you who weren't at that previous Hangout or some of the discussion on that, so there's basically two different QuickBooks Desktop APIs and one QuickBooks Online API. And the QuickBooks Desktop SDK, the QuickBooks Desktop itself every transaction has a unique ID. QuickBooks Online, every transaction has a unique ID. We built a table to map all those. So when a company moves from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, we actually have a table showing those values mapped to each other. So as a developer, that's easy for you, Dave, right? But the problem is we do have that. They said there was two APIs for QuickBooks Desktop. There's the QuickBooks Desktop REST API that we're deprecating. That has its own set of IDs that were created kind of outside of QuickBooks Desktop. And now those IDs aren't, nobody's looking at those IDs, or they're not being spoken to when the desktop file that's using those moves into QuickBooks Online. So yeah, so somebody like you, Dave, who's used those desktop APIs, it's hard to get what that mapping is, and that's something we're definitely aware of. But there's no easy way for us to offer that at this second.
Gotcha. Thanks.
But that's definitely a challenge, right? I think this is a challenge that Jim, it's going to be, you have to pay attention to, okay, when you look at that app, was that app an old desktop SDK app connected to their desktop data, or was it using the QuickBooks Desktop REST API? Because that's going to impact a lot on a migration.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm not a developer. I'm a CPA that is looking at the accuracy of the data and the functionality of the migration. So our engineers are developing all the time, and they're trying to get the conversion to go faster. They do have an interest of talking with Intuit and we do use. He is an Intuit developer, by the way, David. He's the company that we use, and we simply have been just programming, and as soon as we get a chance to get together with you, we'd love to get together with any developer that has an opportunity to develop something where we can make a conversion tool from your program to QuickBooks Online. We're all ears.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just getting that mapping, right? That's what the developers really need. They just need to know, okay, transaction 2554 in QuickBooks Desktop is this, and here's what I saved it as in my app, and now where is it in QBO? It's really kind of trying to find those without trying to search for them, type of a mapping type situation. One thing I found interesting, also Jim, talking to you is, and I'm always talking about niches, right? And to tell them developers pick your niche. I know Abraham's here, like he's built an app just for roofers, right? Estimating app for roofers, roofing contractors, right? And I find it very interesting that you're going after a very specific niche, which is just like, hey, there's going to be somewhere between 0 to 5 million QuickBooks Desktop people over the next 7 years that are going to move to QuickBooks Online, and you're just going to get that slice of pie, right? And if you win that slice of pie, you just get to retire, right? And eventually that slice of pie will go away, but if you go out there and win it, because there's just that much volume available out there to you.
I agree with that. What my objective is, Abraham, by the way, I'd like to speak with you on that. Are you the pitch it? Is that Abraham?
Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Welcome to the program. I was one of the developer judges, and I really appreciated you showing us your offering, and there's definitely a value out there for that, and I greatly appreciate that I'm able to do that. And I'd like to I'd like to get your email and more information on your application after the program, if that's okay with you.
Sure, yes, definitely. I was going to ask, so once we release our software, we're going to be only QuickBooks Online. So if a customer contacts us and say, hey, we love your software, but we're using QuickBooks Desktop, so we should just send them your way?
Yeah, we're more than happy to help on that. We have a lot of, as a CPA firm and as other CPA firms across the nation, do help subcontractors and contractors all the time. From what I saw from these applications coming out for the online application, that's a good case for moving them from desktop to QuickBooks Online. And I have to mention too that since we started the migration from January of 2015 through now, that's already 11 months of improvements from desktop to QuickBooks Online is constantly evolving. It's a constant change for the better. They're constantly improving it. And one thing that I like about the platform is that they can do that on the fly, and they can notify everybody that's on the program about instant changes, whereas the desktop was a little bit more of a legacy change where we had to prove out these changes and prove out these versions and additions to it. So one thing that you have a strong argument for as far as developers online is that I can instantly get that out to my clients at the CPA firm and say, hey, there's this really cool app that's happening where you don't even have to leave your office anymore. You can say, where do you live? And you can go on this online, you can draw out this roof, and you can get a price to them within a couple hours, instead of putting people in all these cars and putting these estimators at risk by jumping up on the roofs. So these are really cool apps that are coming out and that I was exposed to at Intuit Connect. And it's another argument for accountants and small businesses to start jumping on the bandwagon and getting online.
Yeah. there's definitely an acceleration happening for sure. Obviously, we talked about some of those numbers were at QuickBooks Connect, but we're, it took 8 years to get 100,000 QuickBooks Online customers, right? And now it's over 100,000 a quarter are coming on board. So we're definitely, it's ramping up very, 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 very fast. So I think you're going to be very busy, Jim, with the conversions, that's for sure.
Well, and we appreciate the business, we really do. What our main goal is to make certain that our clients are enjoying their experience with QuickBooks Online and that they become an annuity and a client for life. That's what we're after as a CPA firm.
Got it. And have you ever talked to Jack? Jack's not on mute right now, but Jack does the AAA tax, and he does a lot of like import stuff, and he's old historical integrations with QuickBooks Desktop, but he's also integrating with QuickBooks Online now. And Jack, do you project work? But Jack, do you do a lot of like people migrating? Have you been doing a lot of migration stuff lately?
No, we haven't been doing any migrating for customers. It's mostly they're already there and they just want to be able to input files into QuickBooks, whether it be an IIF file or a spreadsheet file or interface with their websites. Occasionally, we do get calls from other consultants or other companies who want to use our products and they think it's a simple update of, hey, let's export one and import into the other, but that never really works out very well, as Jim probably knows from experience.
Yeah, I guess on paper it does seem like, yeah, okay, Jack has this tool that can suck data out of QuickBooks Desktop, and he has the same tools that can shove data into QuickBooks Online. But you're right, on paper it seems really, really simple. But yeah, I don't know. Have you tried to use his stuff yet, Jim?
I can tell you that from what I just heard, to make something simple that it seems simple is extremely difficult. And our engineers that we're using are just awesome people. They've been at times working around the clock on some of these conversions. The conversion tools that are offered right now for desktop to QuickBooks Online are getting stronger as well on the Intuit side. The major opportunity is to capture these conversions before they happen and stage them properly and really see what kind of need the client is going to have from going from one software to QuickBooks Online. I think the opportunity for the developers is to hook up with someone like us to say, well, what are these files looking like coming over from desktop or coming over from Xero, and what kind of applications are they looking at, and how can the Intuit ecosystem, Intuit developers and their third-party apps or their applications fit well within the conversion world. Now that might be after the conversion of the data. However, I see it more and more where I'm looking at other softwares and other applications that I'm going to the Intuit App Center trying to find a good fit for them online.
Yeah.
So I may or may not have answered your question completely about the tools that are available to convert the data. I'm not necessarily worried about that. I'm going to leave that up to my engineers to get that in there. And what I am concerned about is finding the proper development applications to drive effectiveness for the clients that are now converted to QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, Jim, we do a lot of conversions to QuickBooks. Most of it's still desktop, though. But occasionally we do get them that want to convert a other accounting system into QuickBooks Online, and I'll be very willing to talk to you about that as well. So maybe we should link up perhaps next week.
Next week I'm in New York. I'm doing a presentation for Intuit on this conversion issue at the Long Island Tax Symposium. But I'd be more than happy to get your information and discuss how we can be of help. Some of these conversions sort of fall out of they start getting pricier and pricier. If we're going from Microsoft Dynamics, Peachtree, or some type of ACPAC type program, that can get a little dicey, because what happens there is we have now these conversion costs that Microsoft Dynamics may have to go ahead and even convert or get out into a CSV file for our engineers to try to take a look and convert. We're pretty accurate on the Xero conversions. We're starting to get dangerous on the Peachtree, and it is an ongoing, I guess I use constant and never-ending improvement process of conversion. And so I'd be more than happy to reach out to you in any way that we can be of assistance without over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah, I got a project right now that probably going to need some help with. It's going from NetSuite to QuickBooks, but I'm not sure if it's QuickBooks Online yet or desktop.
Okay. And a suggestion there is to try QuickBooks Online Plus, for instance. We're not that afraid of pushing enterprise clients or larger clients onto QuickBooks Online Plus. Because of the dynamic ecosystem and the changes and the improvements on QuickBooks Online, we're taking that risk, and we're taking a look to see if it's a good fit. We always have to remember in accounting, I've noticed this by owning an accounting firm over the last 20 years, is that most clients are looking at you as the trusted advisor and steering them straight, and seeing that if it's truly not an application, we don't move them. We do take some risk because we know that things are going to get better with QuickBooks Online, and they certainly have been recently. And the worst case scenario is that we would have to go back to the QuickBooks Desktop version, which we also know how to do. Now that happens 3% of the time in our conversions, but it's a lifesaver when a client desperately needs something on desktop that the online version doesn't support at this time. But I'd be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, I put my email in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not sure, I've been having some technical difficulties. I've seen those being splashed up on the screen, and maybe David could help me.
I pasted them and shot them into an email, Jim. So you should have those email, those addresses down.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Jim, how do you attack it with a client if you have, let's say this scenario, right? So it's QuickBooks Desktop, and they're using some app, I don't know, some app that helps me run coffee bean roaster company, right? And so that app exists, they integrate with QuickBooks Desktop, but they don't integrate with QuickBooks Online. Like, how do you handle that client? And especially if that client that said, hey, I want to go to cloud, I want to go to QBO, and I want to move.
If it's not available online, I simply say this isn't an opportune time to move you online. And if it's going to, and then if he says, well, geez, really, I mean, I really want to try this online platform, then we would run dual, see what type of application may fit his need besides the one that works with the QuickBooks Online Desktop.
So you recommend an alternate app to the client?
I would at that point, if he was demanding on going on QuickBooks Online, yes. There's so many efficiencies of going to QuickBooks Online, including the hosting environment. I appreciate everything that the hosting environment has done for me and many of our accounting firms that we're hosted on today. However, it's just the QuickBooks Online Accounting Center, and with everything that's on that dashboard for myself and my team and my accounting firm, a much more effective way of running small business clients. And the third-party apps that we found on QuickBooks Online are so much more seamless and so much more efficient to get up and running right away rather than the ones that are on desktop. So I'm not saying that desktop is going anywhere. I heard that from Intuit a lot. I just noticed that there's a large difference between setting up an application on QuickBooks Desktop versus QuickBooks Online. It's a matter of hours, perhaps, on desktop. It's a matter of minutes on online.
Got it. So it's not just even the whole efficiency of using online, just even adding on apps to QuickBooks Online is just easier. Just right. The efficiencies in that, not even using the app, just the efficiency of the setup.
Right. We had a pretty big T-Sheets conversion. T-Sheet setup from a desktop environment to an online environment, and it was just a real enjoyable experience seeing how well it worked and how fast it worked. And it was a really nice thing that, it encourages our team to look at more of the App Center and see what would be a good fit for our clients online.
Got it. Did you specialize in any like types of businesses you focus on in your conversion? Or you kind of right now just wide open, like if anybody comes to you, we're going to try and get you moved over if you want?
Well, we took the position that we do have 1 to 2 CPA firms that are going to make the jump to Intuit Tax Online. Was that your question?
Oh, yeah. That's like, do you have any specialties as far as like niches? Like, oh yeah, we really focus heavily in our practice on construction companies, or we focus on manufacturing companies, like.
Oh, you mean?
Or you're from kind of just broad, general.
Okay, I sort of wear 3 hats. I have 3 companies that I'm constantly involved with, sort of like a triathlon. Sort of feels like I'm done with a triathlon at the end of the day, to be perfectly honest with you.
Gotcha.
I have a CPA firm that I work with we have over 200 business accounts that we do monthly services on. I do have a thriving tax practice. We do over 750 individual returns and all of those business returns. And then I have a hosting company that helps CPA firms out get on the cloud and run their desktop applications properly on the cloud. And then obviously we have this QBO Hero that's taking the lead on trying to convert from any software to QuickBooks Online and making an enjoyable experience for the end user. So our CPA firm specializes in small business, and we're in a very small town. So it's more, if I could say this properly, blue-collar type businesses, plumbers, construction contractors, roofers. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that that mix is going to be the same in the city. It's going to most likely be a lot more service-related and a lot more retail-related. When it comes to QuickBooks and it comes to QuickBooks Online conversions, there is no disparity as far as what we're trying to do. We're data movers, and we want to make sure the data is moving over accurately. And we want to make sure that any type of application that can help that end user get ahead in the day, we're going to help them do it.
Got it. Interesting.
I don't know if that answers your question.
I know. I think you said like you're kind of taking on all, but the barrier doesn't really matter. Going forward. One thing that you mentioned just now, which I really thought was interesting. So just clarify. So you do have a whole business set up around getting small businesses set up on QuickBooks Desktop in a hosted type environment. But then you also are helping people move over to QuickBooks Online. It's kind of that Netflix thing, right? Where people they kind of have to kill his DVD business by creating a new business model. It kind of sounds like you're kind of doing the same thing. You have this existing desktop business, the hosting business, but maybe that's not the long-term future. And now you've kind of started a whole new business model.
Well, I think it's time to do that. We've just seen so many efficiencies coming from SaaS applications from the internet. Just think of all the resources that a CPA firm or an end user can save by just having an internet connection to any device. It's access to information. President Lincoln said it best. He was always in constant communication, and he was finding ways of finding on how to get the information faster, better, more efficient. He came up with those little lines on the railways. He was always looking for faster, better access to information, and that's what we're after. And that's what we're after for our CPA firms and our clients. Access to information anytime, anywhere.
It's interesting because I think there's definitely people that are stuck on and dead set on that model, right, of the hosted model. And I think there's definitely people that are totally all on board on QuickBooks Online, but there's not a lot of people that are currently dabbling in both at the same time. So it could be interesting to see you pricing some trends and some interest observations. That would be interesting if you put together some sort of deck or see you give a talk at Sleater or Scaling New Heights or next year's QuickBooks Connect. It would be interesting for you to contrast. Hey, I have these clients I've had on both products now. I've moved them from both products. Here's the new world. Here's the old world. Here's the trends I'm seeing, because not a lot of people have their feet in both the way you do.
Well, it's more or less like the desktop world is like you have your feet on the ground. When you're in the cloud, you're in purgatory. A lot of things can happen there. You got to pray hard to get them to heaven. And I'm thinking that the online SaaS applications are heaven right now for us. We're just finding a lot more efficient. It was interesting. I come into work and we have a team of 10 bookkeepers, and I observe where they're going first to do their daily functions. You would think that they might want to go to like a area where they see all their tasks for the day, but they're just organically going to the QuickBooks Online accountant application first, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to sort of put a stop to that because they're favoring the QuickBooks Online clients because they can get to them faster, they can do their daily tasks better, and you know, when they're on a desktop version, they have to go in every file and check to see the downloads on the bank feeds. They have to do everything like that, and it's organically just more effective and efficient.
Wow.
So
Wow. We'll have to get a quote on that, I think, and I'm sure some of the QuickBooks Online marketing would love to hear that. That your QuickBooks Online clients and neglecting the desktop clients. That's very, very interesting.
Like I said, I didn't say the HE double toothpicks there. I said Earth, Purgatory, Heaven. So.
Yes. Got it. But it's interesting that the behavior of your own employees has changed to where they enjoy working with the online clients more, just because it's more efficient, it's easier, and it's less headache, and there's less. To some extent, it's less work. Yeah.
Well, and people are going to gravitate towards less work.
Yes. That's amazing. Cool. So if anybody else has any questions, please definitely jump out, throw them out there. And if not, we'll probably wrap up the Hangout here soon. Let me just check the Q&A panel just to see here. Cool.
I just got to get John's email on here, or Jim's email in the chat.
Yeah, Jim, can you, Jim, just so everybody can contact you, did you want to go ahead and say your email here and see your website and just make sure all your contact information is available?
Sure, I think I got this chat down.
Justin, will you say it?
So, whoops, hold on a second. I'm finally figuring out this. I apologize. I was having some issues today.
So I'm pasting Jim's contact info in the, and let me paste in. I'm not sure which email address, Jim, I should use.
That one. Did you see it come through?
Okay. The KJ Tax one? Okay, I'll paste that in.
JIM@QBOHero.com.
Oh, you pasted it in. Perfect. Got it.
That email, the website you can get a hold of me at there, that QBO Hero, and then jim@QBOHero.com is my direct email for the QBO Hero LLC company. And I appreciate any type of feedback or any type of help that I could offer.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for being a guest on Hangout this week. If anybody needs to reach out to Jim, or if any of you are watching us after the fact, please feel free to pop into a future Hangout. Ping me. You can get a hold of me. The easiest way is probably on Twitter. I'm @DavidLeary. Definitely email Jim if you need to. Come to the developer site. We're going to start getting your clients onto QBO. Hey, thanks a lot, and I'll stop the broadcast, guys.
All right. Thank you very much.